So it gets quiet. And then you want to close the window after it gets going so it doesn't echo. And you want to close the window after it gets going. Okay.
Good? You got it?
Sure, good.
All right. Welcome, everyone. We'll call to order the Pleasant View City Council meeting this Tuesday, August 30th, 2022. I got 6:03 p.m. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, opening prayer reading or expression of thought by Council Member Sarah Uri.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Sarah. Item 1B is declaration of conflicts of interest. Anybody have any conflicts to declare on the agenda items?
I don't have a conflict, but I do have a request from our recorder. If we can speak into the mics as much as possible. We've just had issues with the recording picking up everybody.
Okay. Thank you. Item 1C is public comments or questions of the mayor council, limited to 3 minutes. Is there any member of the public that wishes to address the council? Start here and then we'll go back there. Please state your name and your address for the minutes, please.
Oh, let me get the mic. Maybe it's on. Oh, it is. We're good.
My name is Lee Robinson, and I live at 365 West Alberta Drive here in Pleasant View. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you this evening. I'm speaking to you because I received a letter that's been very disturbing to our family, because we have 2 children who are blind, and I am legally blind, but besides all that, this is the letter. I want to read just a couple little snippets from. We are required under the Americans with Disability Act of 1990, 49 CFR, blah, 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 and sections 123 and 131. I'll give you some things from that in a minute. We are required to serve riders within 3/4 of a mile of a basic fixed route tracks or bus service. Next it says, Utah is required to provide paratransit services to origins and destinations within the corridor with a distance of 3/4 of a mile. Again, down below it says UTA, will fall outside, I'm sorry, I read it in the wrong place. Route 616, the transportation service you have been receiving from UTA will fall outside the above requirements. As of Sunday, December the 11th, 2022, the transportation that has been provided to you in the past will need to be modified. There is no fixed route service within 3/4 of a mile of your house. So the point here is we're going to lose our transportation to job processes for my 2 children, 2 different ones. And the other thing that is prominent in this is that UTA has no requirements to do these things. I'll leave you with snippets of those pages that I alluded to. There are lots of things that are required in here, but if you look in here, it says, if you can't do it, you can have the opportunity to do it this way or the other way. What I'm saying is, I think, in my view, the Americans with Disabilities has done a great job to try to make sure all those who needed the service would get the service. What I see from this is basically we're going to stick to some requirements or what we believe are requirements so that we don't have to provide the report unless we want to. But they can do those things if they want to. So couple other things that are there. I have a history with this whole process. About 12 years ago, my older child, my son, had a job at a workshop out west of here. Anyway, and we went through the same thing about a 3/4 mile from your house. And
Mr. Robinson, that's time.
thank you.
I spent about 15 minutes on the phone with him yesterday, and he's provided me with the letter that UTA has sent him. Have you contacted this Angela Haylock? I see she gave some.
No.
If you'd like to explore options, please discuss these changes. And she gave her phone number. If you talk to her, I just need to know before I call her.
I know her. I have talked with her, not on this letter, not on the current situation. My daughter.
Do you want me to contact her before you contact her, or do you want to contact her and see what your options are first and then get back with me?
Well, I can call her. I know that's not a problem. I did want to point out that my daughter started a new job on the 22nd of this month. And this letter is dated the 23rd of this month. Makes me a little suspicious, but I have a history. I'll leave some copies of
Amy, do you want to
things.
go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Mayor, question about that. Does that mean UTA is canceling the
Yes.
route right now? They're canceling it?
Yeah, they're canceled.
As
I believe they canceled at the first. Oh,
officially, December the 11th is when it takes effect. And so,
December, you said?
December 11th.
and while I was talking to the people, and I don't know whether it was this lady, I asked, I said, when did this come about? Who decided that this was going to happen? And how do I get in touch with some of those people? Well, there was no answer to any of those questions. But by law, and it's not this people, but by law, when they make changes to the way they operate, they are required to hold public meetings and those kind of things to get input. I've seen none of that.
I would imagine they have held the public meetings in Salt Lake.
Thanks.
But I'll reach out and find out. Would you call me back after you've reached out to her? Thank you. Okay, anybody else?
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mickey Daines. I live over on 950 West. A few days ago, I found out, oh, thank you. Thank you for your service. Are you the mayor? I don't know. You're the mayor? I don't know. You just had the gun, I thought. Anyway, thank you and good to meet you. A few days ago, I found out that a landlocked property right behind my house was given a variance to build. And concerned me. I'll just show you quickly what we're looking at. Here's 900 West, here's the school. Right, I'm an engineer. I have to have a drawing. So Bailey's, Monson's, Lauders, Dally's, maybe you know some. We're the Danes, we live in this house. And this is the lot that's been given the variance. And the access would be the existing lane across Lauders' lot. Mrs. Lauder died a few months ago, and the kids are selling the house. Okay. I called Amy. Glad to meet you in person.
Meet you as well.
I called her yesterday. She confirmed that the Board of Adjustments had granted the variance. So members of the Board of Adjustments are appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of the council. I've got some big questions that I haven't got answers to yet. Have those members been duly appointed? Have they been approved by you? I don't know. Are they valid? Is their decisions valid? First big question I got to find an answer eventually. Their job, the Board of Adjustments' job, as I understand it, is to consider any appeals that may come forward having to do with land use, building permits, etc. And then they can issue a variance. The Board of Adjustments is an appeal authority in Utah, and an appeal authority from the Utah Code may not amend land ordinances, ignore ordinances, or use appeals as a mean of waiving required regulations. Okay, it's a rule for them. In the case of the Lauder property, an applicant came forward, requested a variance to allow someone to build on this flag lot. And what's our city ordinance about flag lots? You don't have to answer. It's that we don't build on flag lots, right? It's clear in the information from the applicant that their intent is to purchase the two properties, right? The Lauder property and the lot property, flip the Lauder house and build on the landlocked property and sell it. They have no intention of sticking around. Their whole purpose is just to make a buck, all right? Essentially, the Board of Adjustments just told you all that we don't care about your ordinance. And they crossed the line, they're out of bounds, and you should be upset. I'm upset. Our Board of Adjustments held a meeting in June. I think it was on June 27th. I emailed you all a draft of the agenda, or excuse me, the agenda and then a draft of the minutes that Amy provided to me. So you all have those in your inbox. It's, by the way, still in draft. The meeting was 2 months ago. The date's wrong too. I don't know who. Tell them to fix that.
I didn't catch that. Yeah.
Okay. So on this is the meeting. I read the draft version. I've emailed it to you. There's no mention in these minutes of the 5 standards that have to be addressed by the board. The board didn't do their job. In fact, halfway through the meeting, Ms. Corbridge said, the board may only grant the variance if they find the request meets all 5 conditions. She was somewhat ignored. 3 paragraphs later, Mr. Wadman made a motion to approve variance, conditional on meeting requirements, and then Mr. Wade seconded, and then they voted, and it was 5-0. It passed. I want to read to you 2 of the standards. There's 5 standards. You have to pass all of them to get a variance. One reads, the variance will not substantially affect the general plan and will not be contrary to the public interest. Will not affect the general plan. And what's the general plan? The general plan is we don't build on flag lots. The other, the spirit of the land use ordinance is observed and substantial justice done. The spirit of the land use ordinance is observed. What's our land use ordinance? So these guys screwed up, all right? I don't know if they were poorly trained. I don't know what happened. So this board is basically a judicial unit. I don't know if you know that. You, mayor, you, council, none of you can overturn their decisions, right? The only way to overturn their decision is to go to the next higher judicial level, which is the circuit court. So for me to get this variance kicked out, I have to go to circuit court. Okay, what a mess. So, Mayor, you've got a mess. I'll just leave it at that. I think it needs to be on your next agenda to sort out the questions. I haven't hit all of them. I tried to do it in 3. I know it's probably 5 minutes. Thank you for that.
I gave Mr. Ross an extra time.
Okay.
Knowing that you told us you'd need a little more time, so I wasn't too worried about it.
All right.
So we'll get with you, because what you just said is exactly right. It's like you want us to make some sort of decision which we can't make.
No.
You know, I mean, you ended it with exactly what the next step is, but we'll get with you to see if there's something we can put on
Absolutely.
or whatever.
Okay.
And just a couple of quick clarifications with that and with the Board of Adjustments role, and I'm happy to send you this reference in the code, but there is a specific guideline that allows them to hear and possibly to permit the building of a dwelling unit upon a lot which does not have frontage on a street. So that's one of the written into our code variance options. And so nothing that was done is illegal. It may not feel consistent with the general plan from your perspective, and
Well, that's why they're seeking a variance.
Exactly.
That's exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they exist, is to look at these and say, did the property owner cause the hardship? Probably not, is what they decided. Somebody that built around them should have stubbed in a road to that property and not made it a flag lot. Either your subdivision or the subdivision above you, which didn't happen, obviously. So they landlocked that property when they did that. I mean, they looked at there's a lot of things involved that staff and they look at, but it's not just the Board of Appeals. They could appeal decisions from the Planning Commission, but
they can also approve a variance to the
not-
code if there's an undue burden. And to your point, there are the 5 standards that do need to be met, and those were addressed in the memo that was included to them.
Anyway,
But
we'll
we'd
meet
be
with
happy
you
to,
and go over all
yeah,
these and decide what
absolutely.
the next steps are. Okay.
Right on. Okay. Should I just
Thank you.
call you tomorrow?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Anybody else wish to address? Seeing none, I'll move on to item 2, the consented items, minutes of May 24th, 2022, both open and closed during the red folder, and August 9th, 2022. Or, I'm sorry, and June 28th, 2022, both open and closed. So
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent items.
I'll second the motion. Motion by Gibson, second by Marriott. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 3, station area plan. Discussion possible action to consider funding the station area plan offered by Wasatch Front Regional Council, where a scope of work, project team, adoption, and certification timelines will be established, and to collaborate with UTA and surrounding communities regarding this plan. Amy.
Yeah. So before you this evening is a proposal. We were approached actually, and we have on the line, and unfortunately I would have brought him into the conversation earlier, but I don't think Jordan addresses the bus routes, but Jordan Swain from UTA to ask if we had interest in participating in completing a station area plan. And with the proposal for the station area plan, there's a new provision that was included in state law for cities that have transit stations to put in place some type of plan. However, there is a provision within the the state code that requires that that station be active. And so with our station not currently being active, this isn't a current requirement. Having a plan in place could provide some benefit and possibly a catalyst to get the station reactivated, but that's not a guarantee. And so the question before you, our planner, Amber Corbridge, had applied for some grant funding. We'd received it. Whether or not we'd like to accept and move forward with pursuing this plan at this time. One of the things, and I think you're all aware that Amber has actually sought employment elsewhere, and so with that, we will be short a planner, and so timeline is a little bit tricky with this, but we had some discussions with UTA and Wasatch Regional Council, and we might be a couple weeks out from a start with the plan, but it's something we could look at. I feel it's important we wrap up our transportation master plan before we begin this, so.
What questions I've been asked, it's not active, I get that. It may or may not increase our chances of getting it back active. But is there any kind of match that's expected out of this other than time?
There isn't. It's mainly staff time and involvement. And these plans can be pretty intensive.
Is this grant enough to cover the entire station area plan, or is the city going to have to come up with a financial contribution?
Yes. So actually, with the way the funding would be managed with this grant and the award of it, it actually would be managed through Wasatch Front Regional Council. So the city actually won't receive any physical funds. The grant will be awarded through Wasatch Front Regional Council, and they would handle all of that. So we'd be partners in developing the plan, and they'd manage the financial side of receiving the grant.
So I'm guessing that's a no. We won't have to come up with more money.
No, there is no match required, and the amount of funding is anticipated to provide a
And
full plan.
last question is timing. Like you say, we're going to be down a planner. How long do we have to complete this plan under this grant?
So they have 2 years to expend the funds. I will say one of the things that came up in our discussion with them yesterday was they liked our application because it had a ready start date. And so I think they want to move as quickly as possible, but we can move as quickly as we can move. And I would definitely not discourage moving forward because of that, but there may be unforeseen circumstances that would require us to not move forward, even if this were to be awarded this evening, just due to staffing shortages.
So, one more question. So if we decided not to do this, and in 5 years they open the station, then at that time we would be required to do the station area plan.
Correct. In order to have an active station, we'd be required to do a plan. To this level of extensiveness, not necessarily. This is just kind of an opportunity to complete a plan in partnership with UTA and with Wasatch Front Regional Council. If we wanted to do our own plan and have it less expensive, that is an option. I think the hope and the intent is that the station will eventually reopen, and it would be forward thinking to have a plan in place before that reopens. But that's not to say that, I mean, there's not pros and cons both ways.
Sure. I just don't want to spend the city a bunch of time and money
Exactly. Because
we've already done that for that. Go ahead, Steve.
So the council knows how I feel about UTA, and I don't want to offend whoever's on the line here, but
I don't think Jordan will be offended. You're fine.
there is we had a plan originally. Is this for bus routes to it, or can you give me just a Reader's Digest version of what we would get out of the plan, other than just saying we want to have it there? I mean, it seems so silly to do anything when we're $20 million short of getting a station there, according to UTA, to extend that line out, or more. It might even be more now. But this is ridiculous to even have this brought up to us.
So in your packets, oh, sorry.
Well, no, but anyway, I want to know what we want to get out of this plan. Is this just another study that we're going to, throw somebody just because we have money getting from the state, put that towards keeping our line in, our 616, or, keeping those things going for some things that can actually help us in Pleasant View. Just to do a study on a closed station is just ridiculous. Yeah.
And so it's,
So anyway, sorry, Amy.
no, you're fine.
Well,
So
and it might be free money to us, but it's costing us as taxpayers
Well,
money.
it is.
right.
Put that money somewhere where it could benefit
Well, and unfortunately, the money, because it goes to Wasatch Front Regional, I mean, we can't use it for any other purpose.
I
so
know,
either-
but
yeah.
this is being put out there for a closed station. That's what's wrong with America right there. And that needs to be, I mean, this addresses Lee's problem here. He has kids that cannot get to work because UTA is screwing him in that and not canceling a route for a paratransit that actually that is needed in our community. Because it's just ridiculous. And I don't know, and I'd like to have some answers, and hopefully the mayor or Lee will be able to get some answers for this. Because that money, what is it, $150,000 is just ridiculous to me. So again, I've asked that, and I haven't allowed you to answer it, so I apologize.
That's okay. So
what is the outcome of that? What
the
are we gonna
outcome
get?
is, if you look in your packet, there's a footprint plan. And so what it would be is planning for transit-oriented development around where the station is. And I mean, there are some conflicts with some of what's included in the plan. Our decamp facility, Public Works property, is part of that area. And there's also some land with Far West and Weber County unincorporated. And we've met with them, and they'd have interest in possibly partnering on some type of plan. But it would be looking at and focusing in on transit-oriented development. And
Amy, does the transportation plan, so if we use that does that count as?
so
taking care of the
we'd
plan,
need to
or-
have a specific call out in that, and that's something that we could look at doing. I don't know if we have that requested for our consultants at this time, but we could, add a call out for transit station planning. And so the state law doesn't really specify how in-depth this plan has to be. And the plan does not have to exist if we don't have service at the station currently. And so
If we don't use it, possibly include us from another future type of stuff there.
I don't know. And Jordan, I don't know if you, his hand is up. If you want to chime in.
I am dying to say a few things if possible. Is that an appropriate time? I certainly don't want to interrupt anybody, but so just backing up for one moment, the purpose of this type of plan, what's called a station area plan, is to provide a medium by which stakeholders, including UTA.
Jordan, we can't hear you.
Oh, is it muted?
Mike up against it, where's he calling?
I know, I don't know where
On
the,
his side.
Where's the audio coming out?
How do you turn those up?
I think I'm not muted.
Sorry, Jordan, if you can hear us, just 1 second. We're trying to
Oh,
get you
sure.
so we can hear you better.
I think it's on his side.
Can you,
try to speak again, Jordan?
Can you hear me?
Barely.
Barely?
got the speakers up, it's really light. I don't know if you can speak closer to your phone or.
Perhaps my mouth is almost on the microphone.
Shoot.
Can he call in to you?
Jordan, do you have my cell number? I can email it to you if you could call in to my cell, please.
Whatever works, I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
Okay, just a moment.
Okay, thank you.
$50,000 grant.
For our sound system. That would be excellent.
Just one thing in relation to what you're talking about here. They said that they were going to take away services that I've had. We have not had 6 services since before the COVID even took place. So it is.
UTA is a swear word in my world.
Steve, when you said the 20 million short or whatever, is that what they're talking about, economic activity?
No, we have to have a right of way. The tracks was on the Union Pacific line, and so they limited it because that was an active line for Union Pacific, and so they had to have. They came and talked about all of the safeguards that had to be so they wouldn't have collisions, and that all had to be put on. They had to get a Union Pacific engineer from the main station to here. I mean, it was a huge deal for not very many riders. So that's why they canceled it. So we need to have a right-of-way, separate line, UTA line, coming from, and it's about up to 12th Street that they have it. They could get it to,
They're working on getting it to BDO right now.
to BDO, but
You're
from
welcome.
coming here to there, and it was 20 or 26 million, something like that. So we're never gonna do that.
Okay,
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Much
that's
better.
Much better.
You'll have to say yes because you can't hear us.
yes.
Hello?
Hello? Jordan, can you hear us?
Oh, I can hear you. Yes.
Go ahead, that's much
Okay,
better.
go ahead.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Council, thank you so much for letting me be here and taking some time. Can you all hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to back up for one moment. Just to talk about the purpose of this type of plan, I think that's probably the most important thing that we all understand together at this point. The purpose of this plan is not just a transportation plan, but rather it's a plan that looks at the way in which transportation and land use will coincide with one another, right? It identifies the nexus between those two things. There's a lot of development pressure emerging in Pleasant View right now, in particular around this station. And I think it's a really good opportunity for us together in collaboration to figure out what the growth of the area around the station is going to look like. In particular, things like, the affordability or the pricing of housing, retail activity, commercial activity, those types of things. Basically, how we can create a healthy center of activity around the station so that it will accelerate or perhaps expedite the way in which this station can become operational again. I think everybody at UTA and at Pleasant View wants this station to operate again, and we're looking for ways to make that happen. And this is one such way that we could find, that's a scenario that works for everybody.
Okay.
I'm not sure how much of that was audible.
All of it. We heard it all. Thank you. Any questions for Jordan or not? A motion or any more questions?
I just want to make a comment that
I was listening into the public comment about the route being taken away. I was not aware of that, but I think one of the best things to do to introduce new transit in Pleasant View is to build a very strong center around that frontrunner station that other routes can feed into and out of, right? It would be a node, it would be a destination, it would give further justification to operate transit within the community of Pleasant View.
So, Jordan, my comment to that is that 15 years ago, that economic development and that infrastructure was put in by the city and by the businesses around there. It's been sitting there waiting for the station to happen now for 15 years. So, I mean, that's already been done. I don't know what else would be done. Our city has designed the commercial plan for that whole area. It's already been done. We're working on a transportation plan to improve that right now. I think UTA is behind the ball on that one.
Jordan, is this station area plan just, this is the mayor, just for front runner? Or if UTA used it for some other purpose, like, I don't know.
I need to address, well, those are two separate comments. So just to address the commercial uses that were introduced, I think that's an excellent start to forming a center. I think what we would be very interested in doing is finding ways to utilize UTA's property to further support and catalyze that vision that was already started, right? Started, I think you said 10 years ago, which is a long time ago. We certainly would like to do everything we can to support the vision of Pleasant View, including developing UTA's property in a productive way, and something that would provide more of a critical mass of people actually living and dwelling there to support that residential, which seems to be interesting, but possibly struggling right now. And then the second comment, I didn't quite catch all of it. If you could repeat it, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, the stationary plan, is that only for Front Runner or some other UTA program that could come in there first, last mile and make that a bus stop or a major, I don't know, something? Is it just for the Front Runner, the stationary plan?
The stationary plan looks at areas approximately half-mile from the Front Runner station, or any fixed guide rail station, but in this case it would be the Front Runner station. And it would look at ways of connecting other areas within that half mile to the Front Runner station, right? So it would look at active transportation, other bus routes that could possibly be introduced in the future, what types of transit critical infrastructure would be necessary for those two things, and how land uses could coincide with those two things. So it truly looks at the nexus between all modes of transportation within that radius, and what types of land uses would be supportive of those modes.
Mayor, another comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
What was his name again?
Jordan.
Jordan. So Jordan, several years ago, we had a UTA representative come, and Sarah and I were on a committee to look at better ways of utilizing UTA bus service and everything. We were promised at that point that there would be a bridge system between the Front Runner station with kind of a grid, correct me if I'm wrong, that would then shuttle easy to the Ogden City Front Runner station, because you cannot get anywhere from here. That is the problem with UTA. You cannot walk out and get anywhere without having to go and up to Weber State. I'm so frustrated with the $100 and whatever million you're spending on that new rapid electric system. It's a waste of money that could have been used for real transportation throughout the city. And our people, our residents, are paying that tax. This is when that big tax thing came on, when we were the gas tax, and we were 75% of it went to UTA and 25 went to roads, and we should have been just flipped. But I'm very, very frustrated with UTA and what they do for these smaller areas. You know, let them be in Ogden or whatever, but they do nothing for Pleasant View. And until we can get there, till it's easy to get to, I would love to be able to go to the airport, get on a bus, take Front Runner, change over, and go to the airport, not have to pay the airport. You know, but you can't do that. So we were promised a lot. Sarah, how long was that? 6 years ago?
Yes, and none of it ever came.
Nothing. We were promised the moon and delivered nothing. Nothing came. So, all right. Anyway.
I think I got the crux, but it was broken up by some sharp sounds that might have been yelling. I wasn't able to.
None of it was ever followed through with.
What I did catch was that there was a lot promised by UTA long ago, and none of it was delivered. And I've heard many stories, and I think a lot was promised. I think you're right. I believe that. I was not involved in those promises. I probably didn't work at UTA at that time. But what I would like to do is find a rational way for UTA to support and reinforce the vision of Pleasant View as best we can. And I think the way to start doing that is by looking at the Front Runner station and the surrounding areas and finding ways of using UTA's property to support whatever it is was promised 7 years ago or 10 years ago, or however long you're saying. That's what this would be, right? I'm not here to make promises, but I am here to find a rational way forward.
Hey, can you guys buy the right of way and bring back our Front Runner? You might get more ridership if you do that. That would be a good step in the right
It
direction.
really isn't part of what's on the agenda tonight. So, stationary plan. You want to award this, or do I got a motion? Somebody got a motion?
Well, the concern I have is that we don't have a planner. I don't want to throw something on Amy's desk and say, here, you've got this obligation to get this done.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to not, where is it?
to not accept the funding for the station area plan offered by Wasatch Front Regional Council.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Uri, second by Gibson. Further discussion?
Utilize the money for something better.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, Jordan. Have a good night.
We'll get back with you. Or you hang up on him already?
Oh, sorry. I think you heard you say we'll get back to you. I said have a good night.
All right.
Okay.
Right. And that's okay. If it's not right for us at this time, there's no sense wasting $150,000.
Well, it's the obligation of using the funds and,
Yeah.
I really wish we could have something. I mean, we need, especially we have aging community and things, we need a better system.
Okay, item 4 is ordinance amendment. Discussion possible action to consider removing residency requires for the chief of police. Amy.
Okay. So I first want to, and I put this in the packet, add with the caveat, there's no intention of changing our police chief or anything to that extent. Just recently did a survey about cities and their residency requirements for employees and noticed that we're one of the very few that have a residency requirement for our police chief. And then looking at the history of it and how our police service has evolved into a full police service, and appreciate so much the service of our officers. Really didn't know if the requirement for the police chief to have residency in the city was needed. And given that the police chief is the only employee with a residency requirement within the city, looking to remove and repeal the entire section referenced. Any questions for me?
Just historically, I'm the one that brought this to attention as I was reviewing. We're going to try to review ordinances and do some things. I was like, why do we have this?
Yes.
And as we look back, well, historically, many moons ago, if you look up on the thing, when we had a mayor who was also the chief of police, it's because we needed one of our patrol people that actually live in the city because we did not have 24-hour coverage. They'd go home and go to bed 10 o'clock. We didn't need 24-hour coverage back then. So it was made so that we would always have somebody here in our city. Well, we always have a couple of somebodies now in our city on patrol. And times have changed, and so that's why it's like this not really germane anymore. So
I understand what you're going after, because if we do try to get somebody, we want to get the best qualified person. Yeah. But why not want to have them live in our city and actually govern and be a police over the city they live in? I mean, I can see that might be a good thing, but I understand on the other side, you may not be able to afford a house in Pleasant View. There's a big issue like that, but I think it's a good idea to be able to have somebody living here.
Basically, if I was a police officer, which I was, but I'm no longer, if I was a police officer, I would not, in this day and age, I would not want to live in the city that
that's a good point. And, right now, if the chief retires today,
which is
looking at a pretty limited candidate pool to pull a police
I get
chief
that.
Yeah, succession planning, and then also just, I think it doesn't preclude a resident of the city by any stretch, but it also. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
And there's various different approaches on how you can handle it. If somebody, I know when I worked for Ogden, like if somebody were to move a department head, then they'd be required, if they moved while they were in that position, to move within the city.
I do feel like it would be advantageous to have some kind of a radius that they lived in. Like, we don't want them to live in Salt Lake or something where they couldn't get to us and help us. So I don't know if the other cities have something we can pattern that after.
That too. It's like, well, maybe they need to live in Weber County. And then I thought, well, I'd rather them live in South Willard than Uinta.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah.
But
Still, if they're within 25 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, McKay-Dee does that for their doctors.
Maybe more like that position than 25 minutes, other than
Yeah. Mayor, is there anything in there that talks about equipment that they can take home with them or use, or vehicles and things of that? Is that part of the reason? I'm wondering about that.
No.
Our officers right now, I believe, are using their vehicles outside. Is there a restriction on how far they can live because of that requirement?
For response if they're on call.
Well, not so much response, but the
But
cost.
just the use of the
The use of the
mileage and all
vehicle, the vehicles out.
that. I am not certain. Chief, do you know that offhand? Mm-hmm.
I believe it's, at one time it was 25 miles. If you're within 25 miles.
We can get you that information.
Yeah, I'm just wondering
Happy
if
to share
that's,
that. And that's one thing, and you'll see, and sorry, I didn't realize it went so tiny. I disclosed it all on one page, but just doing the benchmark with the other cities, there are a lot that have like a 25-mile requirement. One of them kind of made me giggle. They have a 12-minute response time. I don't know where the 12 came from, but that's okay. But yeah, just kind of varies. And that was a lot of what it was. It wasn't so much a residency requirement, but just for on-call personnel. And we do have that with our public works as well, and our police. And I can get you those times if that's helpful, just for context.
We've never had a problem with getting personnel when we need them. Most of the officers are close. Most of them are not in the city, but they're like North Ogden, far west. One or two, Brigham and Hooper, something. But when we need people, we've got people, and that's never yet been a problem. And taking the vehicle, we find out it's extremely important, because if we leave them here, they get vandalized. And so I think it's a small price to pay for, and a good benefit for the officers.
yeah, I agree.
Well, I like the provision of being within at least 25 minutes or whatever to have that, location. So I would propose making a motion that we remove the requirement of living in the city, but they must live within 25 minutes of the city.
Minutes or miles?
I prefer miles, if that's okay with you.
25 miles. So where does that put you, Davis County, I guess? So
And that's what I'm wondering, if that's 25 miles is a pretty big radius.
Yeah.
I would rather 25 minutes is still Davis County as well.
But is that really gonna stand up if we find an applicant living in Layton? I mean,
20.
You can still have it because it's within 25 minutes,
well,
less than 20 miles.
I don't know.
Well, then you're looking at traffic and that.
It takes me 30 minutes to get from Weaver State.
Okay, so 25 miles then. Is that better?
Well,
Okay.
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. 25 miles could theoretically be pretty far away.
I
And we just look at that as in the application process, is where they're living.
That's what I was thinking.
I don't think we need
Those
to
are
have
things that would be considered
Yeah.
as we're looking at.
I wouldn't say.
Is
So
as
you-
well.
so would
Are you
you-
willing to move from Layton up closer? Are you willing to move from Logan closer? I mean,
But after
and if
they're
there's
hired,
no, then maybe that's something we take into.
So would you rather
account.
me amend that and remove that provision and just
Take it
do
out.
away with living in the
I
city?
think that's something we flesh out at down the road. Like I said,
Okay.
Chief has no immediate plan, so this is something.
Do you foresee a problem, like if you hire a chief and then they move farther away? Like,
That
even
would
though
be-
you
that
flushed
could
it
be
out.
more of a problem. Yeah.
When you're interviewing a chief, and you have a qualified candidate says live in Salt Lake, and say that's not acceptable, another one maybe lives in Roy,
You must be paying pretty well for a police chief to want to come up from Salt Lake.
believe it or not, Manaway's police chief lives in Salt Lake.
That's nuts.
Is that all discriminatory if we hire someone based on their location, or that's okay? You can do that.
It's not, and there's a lot of
Okay.
opportunity for residency requirement if you so desire. And it was really interesting in conducting the survey that the mayor asked me to do, because most of the residency requirements are actually on my position, not on the chief. I think there was only one other one that really focused on the chief, and that was in, what city was that? Manti. Or no, it was Nephi, sorry. They're next to each other on the tiny little grid. But for the most part, it's cities that are coordinating with who their administrator is, not the chief. And I think the reason why the administrator wasn't addressed in the code is because the code was addressed prior to the creation of the position.
Well,
So it just wasn't.
Perhaps maybe
addressed.
the intent of maybe what we're discussing is, besides the emergency response and the availability, you want your police staff and chief to have an active role in our community.
Oh,
and know
absolutely.
Who the residents are, and the residents know who they are, and they have that relationship. So
Mayor,
Living far away, that's hard to create.
I'll second the motion if Sarah will remove any stipulation on, we just remove that ordinance, or remove the requirements for residency ordinance, or part of the,
I'll remove it if we give staff a recommendation to make sure that they just consider that during the application process.
I think that'd be part of the or the hiring committee would be. take
Just a
care of that. I think,
recommendation.
Yeah, we can put a
Not
note on the
binding.
job description to include that.
I would hope
We need
that,
to have preference points or something.
but anyway, I would second it if.
So
Yes,
what-
I'll remove that.
Can we say what that motion was
Yeah,
again?
give the motion again.
For just
Three
make-
motion.
Make a second
Just
motion.
adopting ordinance 2022-24
Yes.
as written.
As written, and just with
Removing the requirement.
notation to be mindful of location. That's all.
So that motion by Yuri, second by Gibson. Further
What was the rest of, Sarah, what did you say?
Just
after
said be
that? It just-
mindful of location.
Is that
That's
part,
it.
is that part of the
Yes.
recommend? No,
It's not binding.
then I'll remove my,
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I don't want to put any, I don't need to put anything on it. I don't want to, that's fine.
Anybody
Someone else
want
can
to second
second it.
that? If not, I'll remove that too.
I'll second Sarah's, with the note that I don't want police chief looking for home or telecommuting from another state.
Oh, see, he just.
Jobs that I.
There you go. There you go. I will add that to my motion as well. Haha.
So I second Sarah's as stated.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All roll call. Harrington,
Yes.
Marriott,
Yes,
Gibson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Yuri.
Yes.
that was
Okay,
funny,
thank
Phil.
you.
I just want to live right in my neighborhood. That's what I really want.
The next one.
He does live in your
I
neighborhood.
know.
He moved from my neighborhood to yours. What the heck?
Has to go where the riffraff is.
He's moving around to all of.
They
Item-
are scary on that street. She lives there.
We got a new
Item 5
subdivision.
is vehicle leases, discussion possible action to approve one 3-year lease with the Bancorp for one police vehicle. They're just dribbling
This is like
in
deja
every couple
vu.
weeks, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
This is the same lease, right, that we just approved?
As what?
The vehicle lease?
Prior, just different vehicle.
Yeah.
How many more do we have?
One more after this one.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve this vehicle, 3-year vehicle lease
Second.
Okay, motion by Gibson, second by Arrington. All in favor, say aye.
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 with the stipulation.
No.
Like, motion carries.
What color are they gonna be?
Item 6 is a closed meeting. We do need a closed meeting to discuss terminology.
Property acquisition and then also security.
But we'll have to do them separately. Okay, so let's start with let's start with security.
Okay.
No? Yes?
I was gonna do property first.
Okay.
I think you go if you wanted to. Not, yeah. He doesn't care, but.
Okay. Entertain a motion to property.
I'll make a motion that we go into a closed meeting
I'll second the motion.
Acquisition of
to
property.
discuss acquisition of property.
All right, motion by Arrington, second by Marriott. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Roll call. Sherry Nelson. Aye. Arrington.
Yes.
Gary.
Yes.
Marriott.
Yes.
Gibson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, Lee.
Can you one of my cards, please?
Lee.
We'll reach out to UCA and we'll be in touch. Thank you. Do you want one of my cards?
Okay, you're gonna have to.
This is just awful. That they need that. I think they would come down here. That's what the parent. Put that out there.
But are we still streaming live?
That's what